Anthony, so great to see you. Someone's fresh off a flight, aren't you?
I can't wait to hear. Don't worry about my flight. I can't wait to hear about your shirt.
Who can't stick
I'm
around?
Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Everybody, welcome to No Vacancy Live. I'm Glenn Hausman. That's the incredible Anthony Melchiori. It is so great to see you all out there today, and especially great to see you, Anthony.
Oh, and before we start the show, I gotta find out what's the story behind your black shirt.
All right, it's like really old. The first time I wore this shirt was the night of a party that we had the day before I got married. So this shirt's like 20 something plus years old, but I bring it out every couple of years or so, wear it once or twice summer maybe. And
well, I think I've seen it before, but anyway, it looks great. Yeah, so I was in Vegas, two meetings, and I'm home. And Vegas was a little less crowded than normal, although the traffic. Let me give everyone some advice, and I know you've been there recently. Mm-hmm. Whatever you're doing in Vegas, make sure you're doing it near your hotel and be within walking distance of the things you have to do. Do not put yourself in a situation to be in a cab or an Uber more than once or twice, and typically just coming back and forth to the airport, because yesterday or the day before I had a meeting. I left my hotel, which is I was at the Nomad, and I was going to the Venetian, which is typically a 12-minute walk. It took me 45 minutes in an Uber.
Wow.
And I was 1 minute, and you know how I don't like being late. I was 1 minute late.
Wow. That's absolutely incredible, and not a surprise, because it's about Harry Reid Airport, the former McCarran Airport, being at capacity by as early as 2030. And I know they're having a lot of conversations about creating a second airport much farther south for a lot of freight and things of that nature.
Yeah, they must do something. The airport lines are bad, but we get clear whatever you go through. But the Formula One, and they have it for 10 years, the Formula One racing that's coming to Vegas that they signed a contract with, they have to basically tear up the entire roadway.
Yeah.
And listen, I think it's great. I think it's fabulous for Vegas. I will not be there during that because it'll be crazy, and the rates are insane.
Oh, yeah.
But, however, so I do understand it, and it's going to be great for Vegas, but it's not like you have roads on the outer. You do have some roads, but where you can just circumvent the Strip.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to shut down the Strip. It's like shutting down. It's like shutting down. I don't know, Fifth Avenue.
Hey, listen, that's why I like Koval. It's great to get avoid the Strip and get where you need to be going. So one of the things that we've been talking about lately, and producer Dave is a real good example of this, because he's the general manager at the Even Hotel Midtown East, and they did a recent partnership with a school in the community to bring art. So having effect on the community and having community engagement is such an important thing, but also being a place within the center of community is important. And today's guest, we've got Juan Webster with us, and he is, of course, from the Sagamore Pendry in Baltimore down there. He also does Director of Social Impact that has a lot to do with that community aspect. Juan, how are you doing, sir?
Fantastic, Glenn. Good morning to you. Good morning, Anthony. How are you, gentlemen?
Great to see you. You look sharp.
Thank you. I'm trying to impress you.
Yeah,
very impressive. Well, Glenn impressed me with the black shirt, so you had a long way to go.
Exactly.
Seriously, I bring casual elegance to the show every single day.
Casual elegance. Oh, that's going to be your nickname. That's my friend Glenn. He's casually elegant.
Yeah, I don't have to try too hard. But anyway, Juan, what I really love is how great Pendry has been doing. The Pendry, and I don't know what happened to Anthony there. He'll be back in a second, I'm sure. And the Pendry Baltimore is really symbolic of that. Now, little Glenn trivia over there. I went to the University of Maryland back in the day, and we used to go party at Fells Point, right? And back then, it was a little grittier, but it's really cool that you are in this neighborhood, which is so consummately old school feeling, feels like the American Revolution kind of vibe down there, earlier colonial days, right? So it's so great. And this I'm looking at the hotel right behind me. Looks more like a museum than a hotel. What was it prior to becoming a Pendry?
Get that a lot. It's actually
Yeah.
the building in 1914 was a recreational pier.
Wow.
So it served a significant point in the history of Baltimore. And actually, at some point, was the second largest immigration intake center, second to Ellis Island.
Really?
So, right, come in on the water, go through the intake process, and when you enter out the building, which is still part of our historic portion of the building,
Mm-hmm.
you're a citizen of the United States stepping onto the cobblestone streets of
Wow.
Baltimore, Maryland. So, very, very,
I'm
very,
shaking thinking
yeah.
about that. I had grandparents that came in through Ellis Island, so I can kind of relate to that. But it must be such an amazing feeling to be in a place that's affected so many lives in that region.
No, absolutely. I mean, I meet people every week that have some story or connection either to family or something they heard about through the history of our
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
Fascinating, as you should say.
Yeah, absolutely. So you already have the building itself has been doing stuff for the community ever since it was created, and now
Yeah.
you're carrying on that tradition as well. But before we start to talk about how you're creating social impact, what I love about your hotel as well is that the hotel itself is built behind that structure, so you're able to have the historic stuff for public spaces is my guess, and then have rooms that are more modern and suits the needs of today's traveler.
That is exactly correct. Being able to take that adaptive reuse concept where you
Mm-hmm.
blend the historic element with, contemporary luxury
Yeah.
and do it in a way where it feels like, you said it earlier, it feels like a museum. We get
Yeah.
that a lot when you enter into the first portion of the hotel. And then from the entrance of the hotel to beyond, it's all about storytelling. And we're grateful to be able to have the opportunity to share that story with whoever comes through our way.
Yeah.
What
For
was
sure.
the one thing you learned about that building, the history of that building, that stays with you? Is there one specific
Maybe a story
nugget?
relating to how it used to be the Ellis Island of Baltimore, you know?
Well,
Yeah,
that's what
I
I
think
meant.
Yeah, no, great question. I've met a various group of people that used to come down, when they were kids and, skipping from another part of town. And
Yeah.
they talked about coming down and playing basketball, like on this actual pier or skipping rocks on the harbor. And when you think about this was a place where people, and it went vacant for it and dormant for a long time. So
Right.
seeing it revive, but meeting actual people who remember what it was. So I think the most popular story or something that I hear often is like, I remember what this building used to be. And so to hear that story, then to see what it's been, the new version of the building and how we've taken advantage of the space and brought it
Mhm.
to life to share more with the community and visitors and strangers alike. That's my favorite part because it happens often. I see that often when visitors come, and then when locals come and they're sharing with their kids or their grandkids about what they used to do in this building or what this building used to mean to them back in the day per se.
That's cool. So did it serve as something else after it was an immigration
Yeah,
stop?
so for a while it would host proms, bar mitzvahs, special events,
Yep.
ballroom dances and galas and things of that sort for
Hmm.
such a long period of time. And then that's when you connect generation after generation. So that purpose was served, and now people see the full purpose. And then looking at it as a movie set from Homicide, Life on the Streets, that was a series that was filmed here. In the I think 2006 movie Step Up with Channing Tatum, that was filmed in the ballroom. So it's a lot of cool parts that you get to go back and take a look on, like, oh, I remember that scene. And so
Right.
people are very familiar with those. And I've even met some of the producers and directors from those very sets just in the last 5 years that have, made mention of their experience here with the building. And everybody's really proud to
Yeah.
see that what it's being used for something right now.
Yeah, and that's what's great about buildings like that. The community, it becomes part of the community. It really becomes the fiber and the soul, especially based on what you said about the history. It's the second largest intake in the country during when Ellis Island was open. And that's fascinating because I never heard that, never knew that.
Yeah.
So imagine how many people you meet or see a generation just walking down the block that grandparents or great grandparents went through that building, and how many celebrities and people that we know whose families came through there. I just find stuff like that fascinating. Glenn knows,
Yep.
I've run hotels my whole career, but usually historic hotels. And, I remember the Plaza Hotel, the first day I started, on the wall there is the logbook of Vanderbilt's checking in and how much they paid and their signature. And it's just that's the stuff that gets me excited about hotels. Listen, a hotel is a hotel is a hotel. It's a bed, it's a front desk, it's hopefully friendly people, clean rooms. And I don't care if it's a 3-star hotel, a 5-star hotel, but the history, if you can incorporate the history into the person's visit, you can't compete with that.
That's absolutely right, Juan, right? Go on. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to agree. I mean, like that makes it always a special place because again, you're talking generational knowledge and connectivity, no degrees of separation because everyone's connected to it at some point. And I think that's what we love about it. We get to live and breathe that and continue making it come alive. So I think it's super special, but like tying in history, there's so many touch points that you can refer back to. And I think that's what makes it last forever. And it helps us with memory making for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I find most fascinating about this kind of property, and I mean adaptive reuse properties, is it really comes with that storytelling element that everybody is looking for kind of built in. I'd also recommend checking our show from May at West and Main in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, because it's the same kind of idea, brand new structure attached to an old firehouse that's very historic for the area and really helps tell the story and sets the stage. So you guys didn't have far to go to tell the story, but you have gone far to keep your roots connected to the community and try to have some sort of impact. Now, this particular property, along with other development, is really transforming that Fells Point area because when I went there back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was known for a lot of drinking and partying, but it also wasn't a great part of town. I've seen that change over the last 10 years.
Absolutely. No, listen, so much history. People have memories coming down, having a great time. That was a common theme.
Yep.
There are still a lot of bars and restaurants, mostly independent. We love the fact that we can
some reaching back to like revolutionary days or shortly thereafter, right? Yeah.
Yeah. When you see the names and titles of some of these historic bars, restaurants, and hotels, they've been around for a long time. But I love the fact that, it continues to reinvent itself. But one of the oldest neighborhoods in the country, and we are here, again, a part of this fabric. So it makes it for a great experience because you can blend the old with the new. You can do a walking tour and just take in sights and sounds. And it's a great testament to Baltimore and what it means to the entire globe. But for our version, blending in hospitality with that, especially from, contemporary luxury perspective, it's a nice feature. We're all proud of it and we're proud to be a part of the community. And our associates are excited to help Baltimore thrive and shine through the work that we do and the partnerships that we serve.
Anthony?
Glenn knows I'm very interested in how people got started in the business. So how did you get started in the business to become general manager and corporate social impact officer?
Yeah. So I think I'll start with the general manager role. So that when I started at the front desk, part-time job, pursuing a second degree and studying. I wasn't studying hospitality at the time. I thought I was pursuing nursing. Got a part-time job at a hotel, had a ice snowstorm in the Carolinas. So down in the South, obviously, when you have those winter storms, they're super impactful. So
because people are not familiar with that weather condition.
No, people had to shut down.
It's hard enough where you are in Baltimore. People can't handle the snow.
Exactly. So shut down for 5 or 10 days or so. The city didn't move. This was in Durham, North Carolina, next to Raleigh and in Chapel Hill. And I just fell in love with the industry that way. That was my first job. I would check people in, and then while no guests were being checked in, I would fold laundry. And so really heart of the house and front of the house combo at essentially like not a roadside inn, but something like a extended stay type of property. And that introduced me to that and just, grinded it out and elevated ever since. From the very beginning, I've always been super engaged in the community, had a heart and passion for giving back and serving. That has followed me throughout my career, and I've kind of brought it through my leadership. Thus, the quick story of how I got into
Yeah, because you're making a great transition to how you become GM and corporate director of social impact. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what happened. So the work that I've been doing in Baltimore, Montage International, our parent company of Pendry Hotels and Resorts, and it truly helped anchor us into the industry. But they saw the opportunity for me to get further engaged and really to lead those efforts from Baltimore. It really started from the work that I was doing at our hotel here, the Sagamore Pendry Baltimore, and got further involved and found ways to, use the entire Pendry and Montage platform to further engage with people, engage with the communities where our fabulous hotels are, and create spaces where people feel there's a true sense of belonging for our associates and our guests. And so the social impact work just started with that, from community engagement to sustainability to finding ways to impact equity and inclusion from a diversity perspective, from a talent acquisition. All of those areas have become a part of the role. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Anthony, did you want to?
And the impact, just the opening of a hotel, whether it's a historic hotel or a normal hotel, people don't realize. They don't realize what that hotel does for the community, builds for the community. I mean, if you look at a city like Vegas, it's basically employs most of the people that live in Vegas. Or if you look at New York, the impact of what it does for people is incredible. I saw it firsthand for 30 years of how it changes lives. You get a nice job in the hotel and you can have a good income and you can feel proud. That's really the pride. I always say when people ask me, I get this question a lot, what's the secret of taking a hotel and turning it around? And I was like, there is no secret. But if you ask me what's the word that I find when I come in, is the lack of pride, or the words, the lack of pride. And as soon as you bring pride in to the building, that's where it starts. And of course, people want to talk about wages and healthcare and all that. But if you don't have pride, you can have the best wages in healthcare, and people are just coming in and phoning it in. And and so when you have a historic property like yours, I'd imagine people are very prideful.
They are. I mean, I think people can feel it. We're often described as the hotel that has a soul. When you come in, you feel the sense of pride, as you mentioned. People want to take care of you. Our associates, our team, our leaders, we are all in competition to make sure who can take care of the guests the best. And that's a great competition to live through every single day. So it is a tremendous amount of pride. And they're doing it because they want to do it, not because I told them so, not because that's the expectation. Is that we created a culture so strong that people are thriving to be a part of it.
Yeah, you just said something very interesting. We're in competition with each other to service the guests. There was somebody on our show, or somebody I met recently, can't remember, and that said at the end of the week, they asked the employees, how did you service the guest? And whoever had the best story won a prize.
No, that, and it's coming. Like we don't lack competition of being competitive within the workplace, but I think that's healthy. That helps us thrive. But it all starts with the associates and being engaged with the associates, which then translates to being engaged to the community. Because the cool thing is our associates are from the same communities that we are serving throughout this city, throughout this town, and that's a common theme throughout their entire organization of Montage.
Yeah. So how do you feel that you're making impact within the community? Is it mostly within the doors of the Pendry, or are you reaching out to do things with and for the community at large?
I think it's both. I think one of the things that we learned very early on is that if we waited on the community to come to us, we probably wouldn't be doing ourselves a disservice. So it's really important that we take the time to go out and be active and engaged in the communities that are around us and afar. And I think, we have within our companies and hotels, a Hearts of Montage and a Hearts of Pendry. Those are community service committees and divisions that it's all associate led, associate based, and they come up with ideas. We try to support them so that they can go out and a full calendar year of what are we doing to serve the people? And those ideas are coming right from our associates. So, example, you have a housekeeper or room attendant that is engaged in that committee, and then next thing you know, we're in her community doing work with her son's school. I think those are really important stories of how we stay connected. And there's several stories that very similar to that, but those are the things that we're doing. We're making sure we're going out, and then when it's time to bring the community to us, we'll always show up. Our hand is raised, and we try to take an aggressive approach to making sure that we remain approachable, we remain a true partner, and that the people of Baltimore, or if we have another one of our properties, wherever they're located, they feel that they can count and depend on that hotel as an anchor, as a supporter, as someone that they feel proud of. So, for example, if visitors are coming in town, if someone has family, they bring their people down to show them the hotel. That's a huge compliment. They're not even staying as an overnight guest, but eventually they come for a dinner or they come to have drinks. But some people just come in to do their own tour because they're proud of it. That's another simple way of keeping us connected to the community.
Yeah. And what do you do? Are you doing any engagement with local schools to find people to get involved in the hotel business?
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that we pride ourselves in, and I'll share one cool program that we're doing. It's called the Distinguished Series, and what we do is 4 times throughout the year, we bring in 100 or 150 youth, and we bring them in and treat them to a 5-course meal, and we do an etiquette luncheon.
Oh,
and so
fascinating.
we have an etiquette coach, and we do the top to bottom, and we share and showcase not just the importance of gathering, but getting them comfortable with fine dining, introducing them to how this dining experience should and could go. But what that does is open the doors to think about careers in hospitality. So while we're talking and we have table coaches that are our own leaders and the etiquette coach, we make sure to do a tour, we do Q&A. But you imagine throughout the year, we see thousands of students and we're introducing them into hospitality.
Yeah, I would love to come and talk to those students. So if I ever had an opportunity, let me know and I'll drive up. I'd be happy to do that. That's a great program. That's a great program. So, there's this kid I mentor, and I remember the first time he walked into the hotel, and he said to me, I was really scared because I didn't think I belonged here. And I realized I belong here. And now he's working at the Pierre, and Glenn met him a couple weeks ago. And he's not only
blossoming. He's
not only he's blossoming. He's like, I think I'm going to apply for the system manager job. He's been there maybe 3 months, 6 months, and he's like, I'm going to apply for the system manager job. And that's what it's about. It's about getting people to realize that you have to work hard. That's the only requirement in this industry. It's the only job or career field that I know of that you can go with zero experience right out of high school and become CEO of the company, if you work hard.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's a perfect example. And I think having the opportunity to be in front of youth who typically wouldn't be exposed to this type of experience, one, we tore down the walls to make them a lot more comfortable. Like you said, I love that you said you feel like they belong, because I get that story a lot. And you hear testimonies of these younger people that now want to go into culinary or want to go into management or leadership. It's fascinating, but I think that's what we have to do. And those are things that connect the dots with a community and just introduces them to our industry, to make sure we maintain some level of engagement through hospitality. But the Distinguished Series, the etiquette luncheon, it's a lot of fun, and we are taking the show on the road. So we plan to have this in a lot of our Montage and Pendry hotels, and that's one of my initiatives through the social impact work that we're doing. But very excited about it, and Anthony, I'll definitely take you up on that. I think you're having an inspiring voice, obviously, in the industry, so people want to hear that, and great stories that are real and true.
Yeah, listen, the Air Force saved my life, and then the hotel business saved my life. So, and I didn't realize, I think I have two personalities. I'm a Gemini, and the hotel business, you never know which one you have to use, right? So, and because I can't sit still, it was a perfect environment for me. It was like people ask me, why did you get in the hotel business? And I just knew at 7 years old, I wanted to be in the hotel business. I knew nothing about the hotel business. I knew nothing. Right. It's the only thing that kept on coming to my mind. It's almost like I really believe that it's almost like a spirit or God like influenced my decision to be in the hotel business. And it's changed. I mean, it's perfect because every single day it's different. You come to work, I used to get there early, and you have a to-do list. And then the next day it's the same to-do list because the time you got in the building, The building
day-to-day interruptions. Yeah, that's the nature of the business.
Yeah, the building said, "Oh, you mean this to-do list?"
Right.
Exactly.
So,
No,
so
that's
listen, man. You don't have a minute to yourself. You don't have a minute to really think. That's why you have to really spend time and
sure.
find time to think. I used to have thinking times every day, and usually it was lunch. It's usually I went to
Yeah.
lunch by myself and sat somewhere, and that was my thinking time to program or understand what's going to happen in the hotel. But it's the greatest industry in the world. And how did you first get into the industry? What was your first thought? Like, what was your first?
Well, I
You just got that
recognize
job, and that was kind of it.
well, no. What happened was like it's the light bulb clicked that like, wait, I can make a career out of
Yeah.
genuinely being who I am and sharing my gift, which I thought
Right.
was a gift of loving people and loving
Mm-hmm.
people through all their differences or preferences. And I was a party promoter
Mm-hmm.
in college, and what happened was like I always loved gathering people around.
Right.
So I was going to be the host, and so that definitely translated into, the love of people. I give my grandparents a lot of credit for instilling those early beginning traits of hospitality from an
You
early
went to
age.
church every Sunday, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Of course I did. But you're setting the table for other people. You're helping
Right.
other people. I always tell the story about where I grew up. My grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
when I watched her, when someone would pass away or we have bereavement in the neighborhood or community, she could not even know who those people were, but she'd be the
Right.
first person at their home, cooking and cleaning, making them feel better, finding a
Good.
level of
Wow.
comfort, showing hospitality.
Yeah.
And I was around that from the early age. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think those things you didn't realize until later on in life. That's when I was really introduced to hospitality. So you're exactly right. I think that's when it clicked later on. That now I'm starting to connect the dots more and more. But when I found out that I could show up, be myself, help other people, the hospitality thing came alive and then just leveled up on providing
Is your
service.
grandma still around?
She's not. She passed away. But one thing I will say, I was able to show her this hotel back in
That's amazing.
2019, where she celebrated her. We hosted her here. She celebrated her 80th birthday, and I was so proud to have that moment because all the fruits of her labor that she put in, the blood, sweat, and tears, and the sacrifices she made, she got to see kind of like the pinnacle of what we could, because we come from very humble beginnings,
Of
obviously.
course.
But I didn't grow up around hotels.
Yeah.
You got me crying.
Yeah.
No, it's real because I know that she was so proud, but I was able to host her, my grandfather, and watching them come in and experience something that I helped create, it's a true reflection of her. And she took in that moment, and my whole family was proud to
Yeah.
serve that moment. But yeah, so that's the when it started to click. And now in her honor and in honor of a lot of people who paved the way for me, I'm just super committed to serving at any level of capacity in hospitality. And fortunately, I've been able to advance my career. But it all is centered around the art of gathering, the art of hospitality, and
Right.
that's the gifts that God gave me to use. So I'm just fortunate.
I think there's an interesting lesson to be learned here. There's a good portion of people that are all about me, 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 me. But I've found, and you're living this in my life too, the more that you give and the more that you're open and the more that
Yeah.
you want to help others, it comes back to you in
Oh.
over and over and over again in ways that you probably couldn't have done if you'd had a selfish point of view for life.
Yeah.
I totally agree. There's
Yeah.
no way I would be where I am without, the impact of others. So
Mhm.
it's so important to me to be able to, in all that I do, find a way to give that same love and effect to everyone else. So
Yep.
it's all about the service to others.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
sure there are people around you that work for you, that young kids that come in from high school,
Yeah.
that you'll never know, or it'll take
Yeah.
you a while to know how you impacted them. The greatest thing is when somebody comes up to me or DMs me or whatever and says, "I remember working with you, and you said this, that, and the other thing," and I'm like, I don't always remember exactly that
Right.
interaction, but is there any greater gift? There's nothing on earth that
No.
somebody can repeat back to you a mantra or quote that said that what you said and how you said it really impacted me, or I was having a hard time and you gave me a break and you really influenced me, and there's nothing better than that. I mean, And listen, we're all selfish, right? You have to be selfish to survive sometimes.
At some point.
Right. But like Glenn said, there's nothing better than helping people, whether it just be yesterday, my neighbor called me for something. I was away for a survey because somebody's putting up a fence on her yard and she wants to make sure it's right. And I was able to connect her to the right person. And she texted me and you could hear the joy in her voice.
Yeah.
Of like, I appreciate that like solved a lot of stress for me. And as a matter of fact, it was the person that did the survey for the person putting up the fence. So he really assured her that the survey was right. So my point being is it could be a little gesture, just going out of your way to make a phone call or give a number, or it could be having that lunch, which I really want to be at the next one. And I really want to,
I'm going to make sure you're there. I'm
please include me in that invite as well.
Please. Yeah, please. Just make sure it's separate days because I don't really like seeing him that
much. He's right about that. We this is why we're never in the same room with each other. You know,
I love it. We do it multiple times, so I
that's good. We could barely. He's technically, in New York City, but we're both, geographically on Long Island, and we had to work out a deal just to have that.
Just not to bump into each other.
Yeah. Right. All right. So, Juan, seriously, before we wrap up, could you give some advice to some other folks in your position about how they could get their local community excited about opportunities within the hospitality industry for their own personal success?
Absolutely. I think it's really simple. Getting involved. I think your associate base will lead you to the answers that you're searching for. So I think by simply creating some dynamic of understanding within your own organization, within your own associates, learning about their families, you can start at that level. Where do the kids go to school? Are the kids interested in summer jobs? Can you go in and speak to local high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, whatever's there? And I think there's the door is always open to go in and engage with students. That's one way. There are other programs that where you're taking, programs that support local citizens getting back on their feet. I think you just have to be active and engaged. So my advice is to get involved with your local educators, your local elected officials, your business owners. When the community and the business community and they can both work collectively together, I think that's a thriving community. So I think it's right in front of us. You don't have to search for any, overly complicated programs. You really can just go out and meet people. So I think when you're engaged and you open your doors up to all people, you'll find your way. So we found tremendous success just by listening to our associates and leading them to other associates. So, but from high schools to community colleges to programs and any opportunity to take other leaders out, like take your managers and leaders out and have them help recruit, share their work. If you're at the local grocery store or you happen to be at another restaurant, having those conversations are really, really critical.
Yeah, and that's such an important message. I'm really curious of that flag and picture behind you. What's the story?
Which one?
Oh, one right above your head.
Yeah. We have an associate, God rest his soul. We have an associate that passed away last year, and he served in the military. And we'd had this one time as a thing. So this is almost like an enshrinement. I didn't serve in the military, and that is something where to help keep his memory there. So that's a box reserved for one of our engineers that made a significant impact on our lives, on our story, and our day-to-day. Said it has such incredible energy. So rest in peace, Mr. Cooper, Lauren Cooper. So that's something, a keepsake that we hang around in here for someone who made a tremendous impact.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And here's to the amazing universe. Everything was blurry behind you until you started talking about it, and the flag suddenly became clear.
Oh, there it is.
It's funny, Glenn. When I was thinking about asking that question, it was half blurry.
Right.
The second I said, "Well, he'll explain," I'm gonna ask him to explain it. As soon as I said that in my brain, it became clear. I could see the medals.
Mystery of
That's
the
it.
universe, man.
Look at that.
I love it. Juan, how about a great plug for your property, the Sagamore Pendry Baltimore?
Say the last part for me.
Plug it, baby. That's all I'm saying. Plug your hotel.
No, listen, we would love to host you wherever you're coming from, near or far. I think we have an incredible experience that awaits you, especially if you can get here before the summer ends. We have an amazing pool that overlooks the harbor. We're excited about the storytelling opportunities, but more importantly, you're going to meet some amazing people who really understand hospitality. We can't wait to serve you. So
that's it. Not just a pool overlooking the harbor. It's like, it looks like it's part of the port, the dock in the harbor. So it's a really cool architectural thing to go and check out. Very different than other places. Juan, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you. Thank you guys for having me. Thanks for the engagement. Thanks for the conversation. I actually look forward to seeing you really soon at this distinguished series and etiquette luncheon. Thanks for
please invite us. Yeah, thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye. So really fun. And one thing that he said, a little different than the topic, it was just kind of a throwaway line. He mentioned the word contemporary luxury. And I think that's a really cool phrase to differentiate the brand from like St. Regis and some of the more classic luxury properties that we all grew up with. So
historic contemporary luxury.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. I like that too. Anthony, any final words before we go?
No, you look marvelous.
You look marvelous. All right, everybody. Speaking of being marvelous, if you really want to be marvelous, you'll be downloading us on audio, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, wherever you get your shows. We are there. That includes Google. We're not getting a lot of Google downloads, so why not go over there for us? Check us out. He's at Anthony Hotels. I'm at Traveling Glenn, and watch us throughout the week on LinkedIn and all of those kind of great places too. Anthony, it's been great seeing you. Remember, everybody, you've got one life, so blaze on, and
be kind to yourself.
See you later.